Welcome to our program on the history of Israel by Boris Sarlin. Jerusalem in Transition. The persistence of Jewish and Christian communities after the destruction of the Temple. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episode of our exploration of Israel's creation. In the aftermath of the destruction of the Temple in 70 CE, Jerusalem stood like a wounded city, its streets strewn with debris and its people plunged into mourning. But in the midst of this desolation, the foundations of a new era were laid. The years that followed were marked by a period of reconstruction and reorganization for the people of Jerusalem. Devastated neighborhoods were rebuilt, infrastructures reestablished, but the scar left by the destruction of the Temple remained deep. The first Christian communities continued to grow despite the challenges they faced. Jesus' followers, imbued with his vision of peace and reconciliation, found creative ways to practice their faith in the midst of Roman oppression and the hostility of Jewish authorities. Private homes became clandestine places of worship, where the faithful gathered to pray, study the scriptures and share meals in fellowship. But the fragile peace that reigned in Jerusalem was short-lived. In 132 CE, a new revolt broke out, known as the Bar Korhba revolt. Under the leadership of Simon Bar Korhba, the Jews once again rose up against the Roman yoke, hoping to restore their national independence and rebuild the sacred temple. Bar Korhba's forces were finally crushed by the Romans in 135 CE. The repression that followed was brutal. Thousands of Jews were killed, and those who survived were scattered across the empire. Jerusalem, scarred by decades of conflict, was once again plunged into chaos and desolation. The early Christians, witnesses to the tragedy unfolding around them, continued to proclaim their faith in a Savior who had come to bring peace and redemption. In the decades following the destruction of the Temple, Jerusalem continued to be the scene of struggle and suffering, where the seeds of Christianity continued to germinate amidst the ruins of the holy city. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episode of our podcast, where we'll continue to explore the lesser-known facets of history.